Good evening, everyone, friends and family from wherever you're viewing this from. I am Jeff. This is Astroscoop, and this is Astroscoop Livestream number 12. So I said last week, lucky number 12. Maybe it's going to be lucky number 13, but it is number 12. So thank you for all that are going to tune in. I'm going to think positive, and wherever you're viewing from, if you see this, either in real time now or later for the replay, would you please comment and let me know what country you're viewing it from? What country? You could give me your age group, your sign, if possible, and also your level of astrology, expert, beginner, etc. So today is March 16th, 2024. Last week, we talked about the last period of Pisces, which we are still in, but we're ending the Pisces 3 period, which is here, Pisces 3, and then we're coming up on the Pisces Aries CUSP, which is one of my favorite times of year. And mainly, the number one reason is not so much that it's starting with Aries, but it's because of the light outside. So right now, it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is just starting to set right this minute, and it's not dark, and the sky is just absolutely gorgeous over there. Wish we had a view of that. I'll have to get a camera and see if I can get it out there. But it's so nice for it to be 7 p.m. It's not pitch black. It's not super cold here on the East Coast. Today, last couple of days have been beautiful and unseasonably warm. So it's really, really a nice change. And that shift, and we're going to talk about this, that shift is symbolic of ending Pisces, which technically right now we're still in winter. This is the last weekend of winter, and then we're going into Aries. So last week we talked about the Pisces 3. We've talked about all the decanates. And I know some astrologers don't spend a lot of time on the decans or decanates, but I think they're important because they help to fine-tune the sign that we're in. So often we'll talk about Pisces having certain traits or other signs having certain traits for the whole month. But when you take the decans, it fine-tunes it, and it gives the subruler, and it gives other information. And then when you do someone's natal chart, you can really zoom in on the subtleties in the birth chart, in the natal chart, which is really, really fun. And that's a big part of astrology in my book, is the subtleties and nuances that are hidden in the astrological charts of people, places, countries, etc. That sort of thing. So I hope everyone is doing well. And like I said, it's the last weekend of winter here. And unless we're in the other hemisphere, then it would be the last weekend of summer. But we're almost in spring. We're going to talk about the end of Pisces and what that means. So Pisces 3, let me just see if anybody's here yet. Let's see. I'm not sure if this chat is working. If anyone wants to just say hello or hi, if you want to chat, please do so. Because last week I viewed it on another computer and I saw that there was 3 or 4 or 5 people in at one point. And on my computer here, where I'm using the webcam, it showed me 0. It's showing me 0 right now. So I don't know if that's a glitch or not sure. But if anyone wants to say hi, if you want to ask a question regarding Pisces especially, but you can ask any question astrologically, and I will attempt to answer it, and maybe even you'll get a mini reading for free. So if you come in at some point, please, 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 please comment. It helps to engage the channel. And for a microscopic small channel like myself, every engagement, every like, every share, every comment really, really helps. And unfortunately, in the world of social media, creators like myself, I guess if I'm a creator, we have to succumb to sort of the superficiality of social media, which I hate. I really hate the superficiality of social media. I don't even really like being on X or Twitter or Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore. TikTok, I'm not on. But I really hate being on those because you kind of get trapped in this superficial world. And of course, to grow my channel and to get my messages out with Astroscoop, I have to use social media. There's no way around it. So we have to use it. It's a double-edged sword, and I try to send out messages that are user-friendly, that no matter what your level of astrology, you can take something away from my video or my podcast or my live stream and use it immediately in your life. And hopefully it'll has substance. It has practical value. It has substance. And like I said, it's user friendly. And even though I talk a lot about sun signs, I'm talking a lot about sun signs, which can be superficial because as anyone knows in astrology, there's a lot to look at. But so I digress, but the superficiality of social media, I was just talking about it with someone this morning, with a guy, and it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things. If you want to get your message across, you have to use social media. And I kind of miss the old days of like word of mouth and all those other things. But we are where we are, right? So Pisces 3, we talked about Pisces 3 last week, which we're in right now for the next 2 days. And we're going to be coming up to the Aries Pisces cusp of revival on March 19th. And the Pisces Aries cusp runs approximately March 19th to March 24th. Now, I know I get a lot of comments from people about disagreeing with the cusp dates. And if you read articles from all sorts of astrological online journals or magazines, people have all sorts of different configurations of the cusp periods. But I use the basic common cusp period that I've used for many years, and that's the heart of it. And when you start a sign, when we start Aries on late on March 19th, and then the first true morning of spring is March 20th in this hemisphere. When you start the very first sign, obviously it's a 0 degree sign. It's not even 1 degree yet. So if the sign is 30 degrees, it's just barely starting. It's like its first breath, like a baby. So that is obviously a true cusp because you're coming right off. We're going to come off right off a 29-degree Pisces sun on the morning of the 19th. And then late on the evening of the 19th, we're going to go into 0 of Pisces. 0 before we go into 1 of Pisces. So that's truly, truly a baby. That sign is a baby degree. So that's why the cusp periods differ. But basically, if you're the 19th, 20th, 21st, especially of any given month, you are a true cusp baby. And you're one sign, but you have traits of both. But you're really, really on a strong period of energy, a focal point of energy in the earth. When you think about all the creatures and the animals, look at how active, my gosh, in just the last 3 or 4 days, the amount of birds I've seen are unbelievable. The activity, and it's not even spring yet. So it's, it's a true cusp period of 2 signs. It's very powerful with that energy coming together. So Pisces 3 is the last decanate of Pisces, as I mentioned last week. Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and then it's sub-ruled by Pluto. So you have Neptune, the planet of illusion and fantasy, glamour, and then you have that colored by Pluto, which is so March 11th to the 18th, again, another day and a half or so, we are still in the Pisces 3 period, at least in my book. So Neptune is ruling with Pluto co-ruling. And a lot of celebrities born in this weekend really showcase a very interesting personality in their acting or their music. Is Pisces can be so shy, but Pisces born this week coming up on the cusp have a little bit of a flamboyant side to them. And it's a little bit of a showcase of coming up on that fiery nature and personality of Aries. So it's kind of interesting that someone, I know I mentioned last week how some people have said, I've met Pisces before in my life that have been born this week, and they didn't come off as Pisces to me. They came off as other signs. They were either more earthy or more airy or more fiery or something. And they were picking up and they're absorbing some of those other signs from their chart, which Pisces does effortlessly. But this end of the Pisces period is very strong because it's Pluto. So I talked about last week how Pisces born this week are can literally be very, very strong dreamers, can be literal or metaphoric dancers. They like to dance around things, and they are escapist, and they can look for the escape hatch when life gets heavy or suffocating. Definitely. Pisces, very much so. And we'll talk about that kind of theme when we get to Gemini in the summer, or I should say late spring. We'll talk about kind of that feeling of being trapped or suffocated. And there's certain periods of Gemini and the symbology with Gemini, which in some ways is a little similar to Pisces and sharing the mutable signs. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. All right, Carolyn's here. Welcome. Thank you so much for saying hi. Yeah, I had just said at the beginning of the top of the hour, if anyone could just comment, if anyone comes in, just comment anything, because on one computer last week I had that there were 5 people, and then on my webcam computer, like right now I have 1. Okay, so I think there's only 1 person, so, and that's Carolyn. Okay, so that's great. So maybe that is accurate, and maybe that's not a glitch. Hopefully we'll keep that going. So yes, this Pisces 3 period that we're ending, very, very strong. And when I was researching celebrities, I like to look at, this is kind of weird. You might think this is strange, but I kind of, all astrologers and healing people, I guess I consider myself the healing arts of sorts. When you're working with energy, whether it's a chart or a tarot deck or crystals, or you have someone one-on-one and you're at a psychic fair and you're giving a reading to someone, it's all energy. And since I don't have any Pisces creatures with me, I don't have any Pisces people, physically near me. I don't have any Pisces animals near me or creatures. So I'm not readily being able to tap into the Pisces energy near me, right? And near my energy field, sort of thing. So I'm going to have to try to find other ways to tune in. So when I research all the celebrities, which we'll get to later in the hour, when I do research, I close my eyes, I look up the actors, actresses, musicians, singers, songwriters, and I look at all their pictures. I look at their pictures. I look at some of their work. Some people I'm extremely familiar with, so I know their work off the top of my head. And then other people I'm like, oh, that's interesting looking person. Let me look at their filmography. Let me look at their discography and all their albums, see what songs they wrote. And then I close my eyes and I just meditate with it. And then, so I kind of like do muscle memory. So I close my eyes and then I try to remember all the famous people I just looked up, whether it's on IMDb or famous birthdays. Another great site is called onthisday.com. One of my favorite sites. That's my secret weapon. Onthisday.com. Go to that website. Oh my gosh, talk about a rabbit hole. You could be on there for hours. I'm telling you, you could be on there all night tonight if you have insomnia. And I hope you don't have insomnia. But it's onthisday.com, and you can look up events, deaths, birthdays. You can look on your birthday and see what happened, see who was born, who died, what wars were fought, or what treaties were compromised. There's all sorts of interesting things. But I will close my eyes and I try to tune into their faces, and I try to get a vibe. And I think, okay, I remember seeing this person in this movie, I've heard this album from this songwriter. And then I try to, and then when I compile my list here, I try to get a sense of the person specific to their week, which is this week, or a CUSP period, so that when I go to describe it to you, that I hopefully have it's a little more specific than just generally saying these are all Pisces people and they're all creative, which obviously they are, but there's more to it than that. So that's one thing I do. I just close my eyes, and I also I'll study the faces. I'll just look at a face and I'll just kind of study it for 30 seconds or a minute and kind of intuit there. That's another thing I do. So it's just interesting things that astrologers do, or tarot people do, or psychics or mediums do. Some of it is weird, kooky, offbeat, but it's how we all we're all a compass. Or anyone that does anything creative. If you write, even if you don't consider yourself a writer, if you journal and you're well spoken and you're literate and you write passages, you're a writer. If you paint as a hobby, but you say, I'm not an artist, I just dabble. But if you can paint a picture of a tree and it's legible and clear and beautiful, you're an artist. If you can read an astrology chart, even on a beginner level, you're basically an astrologer. If you can write a simple 3-chord song, you're a songwriter. So all those things, we're all compasses, and we all calibrate ourselves with something creative that we do either in our work or in our pastimes, our hobbies. So that's kind of what I do with astrology. It's like a calibration thing. And as I'm doing this live stream, and I like to watch other live stream and podcast people, both from astrology and health, but also technology, current events, even like that talk about sports. And I like to see their process, and I like to see how they intuit and tune into their material, because it's really interesting. People are, when you're learning about something. If I was learning, I watched a boxing video about Mike Tyson, the controversial boxer Mike Tyson. What an interesting man that guy is. Also very troubled in his personal life, and he went to jail for various reasons. And Mike is not a Pisces, so I'm not bringing Mike up because he's a Pisces, but I watched a couple videos on him about his boxing career. And I liked watching it because the man presenting it really just told a beautiful story instead of just facts. He was telling a story, and he was very intuitive. And he was doing it from his own perspective, from his own training and things like that. Not only from a sports perspective, but it was more from a humanity perspective, and the psychology and perception of sports and competition and violence and things like that. So it was really interesting. So that's what I'm talking about. It's great to be able to calibrate yourself and just be a compass as far as that. So the Pisces 3, we're ending. That Pluto makes these people powerful dreamers, but they can also get carried away. The Neptune, this will probably be the last time I say it, because I'm a broken record both in my videos and my live streams, so I apologize. But Neptune is the planet of fantasy and illusion, and liquids, glamour. I would say in some ways, the world of Hollywood and movies, not entirely, but is somewhat ruled by Neptune with the glamour and the glitz. And I said at the very beginning, with Pisces being the season, that we often equate theatrical actors and actresses with Leo. That's the first sign that comes up usually. Number one sign that comes up when we think of someone that's dramatic and theatrical and that can convey something to people, perform, convey a message, and act out their self-expression. And that's what Leos are born to do. But Pisces, which is a much more shy sign for the most part, depends on the house placement that the Pisces planet's in. I know one Pisces person, my family knows a Pisces person, her sun in Pisces is in the first house. So she is an incredibly assertive, driven Pisces person and very ambitious. And one thing she did in her personal life is she's a big advocate for animals. She's very protective of dogs and cats, which Pisces people are, especially Pisces women. I talked about caretaking and animals with Pisces. There's a natural affinity instinctively to take care of the earth and to take care of Earth's creatures, which include animals, especially cats and dogs. But this woman who has sun in the first house, which is the Aries house, which is a Mars influence, she actually slapped someone in real life. And she's not an aggressive person per se, but she slapped someone in real life that was being cruel to their dog. The person kicked their animal and she slapped them and said, "I'm calling the police on you. I wrote down your license plate or whatever, and I'm calling and she did. She called the police. She got in trouble with the police, but she slapped the guy that was being mean to his dog. So, so Pisces planets can be fortified and they can be aggressive and more assertive if they're in another house that's not Piscean or not water. So hers is in sun in the first. But that's what I'm talking about with the Pluto. It's like if there's a Pluto or Mars influence with Pisces, they will be much different than their average kind of retiring and shy Pisces. Not necessarily weak, just shy and retiring. Pisces can have a lot of inner strength, quiet inner strength, just like Scorpio and just like Cancer, the fellow water signs. Scorpio is not the only inner hidden sign that has reserves of strength. Pisces has a lot. The Pisces fish can be a whale. The Pisces fish can be a shark. So don't underestimate Pisces necessarily, especially when something moves their emotions either positively or negatively on the wheel. So Pisces can be a little overreactive with certain things that they're protective of, like animals. So we're ending Pisces 3. So I'm not going to talk anymore about Pisces 3. We're only there for another day and a half. So if any of you are having birthdays, you are a late Pisces still. If you're born this weekend, tomorrow's the 17th. If you're born Monday, the 18th, you're still a Pisces. If you're born the 19th, you have to look up your birth year, but you're most likely still a Pisces 29. If you're born March 20th, let's say 12 noon or later, almost of any year in this century, you're going to be a 0 degrees Aries. And then obviously by the 21st, now we're on the 1.5 or second first full day of spring, which is Aries, spring, Aries. So that brings us from Pisces 3 next week, from March 19th to the 24th. We're going to be on the cusp of rebirth that some books mention. It's a revival of sorts, and it's raw. It is the most raw because it's starting the zodiac cycle all over again. And so many civilizations in history used March 20th, about March 19th, 20th, or 21st, as the new year. Their new year was more so with the ingress of the sign of Aries, rather than January 1st being the calendar year. So a lot of civilizations started that way. I know that there's a lot of people that are learning astrology, younger people now that are studying it academically, that don't necessarily agree with some of the civilizations and the systems that they used. I know there's a lot of controversy, especially on X, about different groups of astrologers believing different systems. I can't believe how heated that gets. I don't get into those arguments. Again, if you're using a system that makes sense to you, as long as it's not completely outlandish and it has some practical value, I think then it's all good. But yeah, the cusp of Aries starts. So March 20th, New York Eastern Standard Time, the morning of March 20th is a 0 Aries. We start the day fresh with Aries, but it's colored with the cusp of late Pisces. So what does that mean? Well, we talked about late Pisces. We will talk about in a week or two, we'll talk about true Aries energy and all the Aries celebrities and the first sign of the zodiac. So I've mentioned this whole winter how the last 3 signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, they're the last triad. They're the last 3 signs, triad of the zodiac, signs 10, 11, and 12. And they represent, if you look at it from a personality standpoint of the life cycle of someone that lives 7-year cycles and lives to 84, that would be 12, or even into their early 90s, which would be a whole nother cycle. And if someone lives to 100, that's more than a whole astrological cycle, and it's almost like they're reborn again if someone lives to 100. So that's pretty amazing. Boy, I would love to talk to some 100-year-olds that have their mind and ask them how they feel about that. That would be pretty cool. But the cusp combines this late Pisces, Neptune, Pluto energy coming up on the very first decanate, almost, of Aries. Early Aries, like 0 of Aries, 1 of Aries. So that early Aries energy is colored by Pisces. So we have Pisces, which is water. We have what I call fantastic happenings. It's just fantastical. Late Pisces energy, which is so dreamy, comes upon the very first sign of the zodiac, which is all about action and totally getting into life, jumping like a baby animal, any baby creature, any baby insect, flying, just jumping, leaping into life. So that dreaminess of Pisces coming into the brand new Aries sign of jumping. So jumping dreams, fantastic happenings, can be very unrealistic. The combination of Pisces, Aries people they will undoubtedly have their own weird, peculiar, unique way of doing things. And it's not in a sense like Aquarius. Like when we talked about Aquarius is a unique air sign. Aquarius is a true individual. It's intellectual. And Aquarius is detached, and they have to have their own space to be that individual that they are. But with Pisces and Aries, the independence is much more peculiar. It's much more personal because of the Pisces fish energy and then the Aries ram energy, which is leaping. So fantastic happenings. We come into the world of feelings from late Pisces, and the feelings are strong because Pluto is the sub-ruler of the decanate that we're in. So we come into the world of feelings, and then we come into the main mode is for fire is intuition. And that also goes back to some of the classic psychologists and temperaments. But fire, generally speaking, is intuition, the main mode. So we go from feelings right up into intuition and combining that. So these people, Pisces, Aries people, are going to want to use their hunches, no matter how cerebral or intellectual they are. and they may be trained in a certain profession or job where they can be very logical and very persuasive, but generally speaking, they're going to want to use their hunches. And this is kind of similar to the Sagittarius cusp people as well, Scorpio Sag and the Sag Cap cusp, where the Sagittarius has strong intuition as well. It's a little different than Aries. Aries is more childlike about it, and because Sag is a later sign, but Aries is the brand new creature, the brand new infant or baby. So feelings and intuition modes, we have the head for Aries, and then we have the feet for Pisces. So those are two main areas. I didn't do any fixed stars for this week. I didn't look up any stars in the constellation, but you can do that if you want to look up stars for 0 degrees Aries, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 degrees, which are all the cusp degrees. You can look up in the constellation what Aries stars. But generally, it's the head for Aries and the feet for Pisces. So if you know your chart, it would be really good to look for where, if you have a birthday this week, look for where Aries and Pisces are, what houses they're on, and look for Mars and Neptune in your chart. Look for the Mars and Neptune placements, what houses they're in, and look where Aries and Pisces are on your house cusps, like this. These are the house cusps right here on the wheel. So that's interesting there. And so head and feet. So what does it mean when we're leaving Pisces? Well, that essence of Pisces, that dreamer, is still there in the early Aries person. And the early Aries person may not think things through very well. They could be very brilliant. They could be very educated, but there will be something in their character or personality where they won't think things through. They will be impulsive. There will be impulse there, and they will make a good deal of mistakes and with judgment, I think. And that's also because of the Pisces fantastical kind of quality and being unrealistic. They don't accept, like, this is a cusp that they're so dreamy and so action oriented that they don't accept failure as an option, not because they don't know inside that they could fail. They do because they're sensitive, but they don't accept it because they think, well, this is a big dream and I have the energy and the impetus to make this happen. So I'm not going to fail. There's no way. I'm just going to do it. So again, this cusp can be quite unrealistic, and it's starting the whole zodiac. So if we looked at the late Pisces, so if a Pisces person is born in the later stages of life, like they would be in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, that would equate to a senior citizen that has acquired a lot of life experience and wisdom and can now share that with their grown children, their grandchildren, and maybe their great-grandchildren. They can share that. And I talked to a 90-year-old Cancer woman last week. Yeah, she said she's going to be 90 in June, almost 90. And sharp as a tack, wonderful. And I told her a little bit about astrology and what I'm doing with the live stream. And she was interested and had an interesting take on herself and when she was young and being a Cancer, a water sign. So the stages are amazing. But with Aries coming up on the cusp, this is a brand new person. So it's like there's no wisdom, right? If it's a baby that's 0, if a baby is between 0 and 12 months, the baby is 0. A mom will say to you, my baby's 3 months, my baby's 8 months, my baby's 12 months. So it's almost like they're not on the scorecard yet. So there's not acquired wisdom there. There could be natural wisdom if you believe in reincarnation, and I keep saying that every week. You'll probably hear me say that forever. If you believe in reincarnation and the nodes in the chart, the node right here. That's the nodes. Here's the cusp period. This is actually the spring chart for New York Eastern Standard Time. This is the spring chart where I circled 0 of Aries there, the cusp period, and here is the node. So if you believe in the nodes, then there's past life wisdom. If you don't, if you just believe that Aries just starts the zodiac and it's starting from scratch, it's starting from 0. If you have to go 0 to 10 or 0 to 12, you're at 0. So there's not necessarily acquired wisdom. So that's why a cusp person born on this period would tend to make a lot of mistakes, I would think. I haven't known a lot of people born on this cusp, but I would tend to think that. And from the people I've researched in their professions and their personal lives, there's a lot of impulsivity there. Now, here's another thing. If you're born on this cusp and you have 2 rulers, you have Neptune and Mars. So you have 2 rulers that you would look for in your natal birth chart to understand, to fine-tune your signs, because you have the influence of both signs. If those planets, if Neptune or Mars is, let's say, in Earth signs, that would change the game entirely for you. If you had good aspects to them, even if you had a sextile, or the Pisces had a sextile to Taurus or to Capricorn, and you had a Mars in Capricorn, or you had a Neptune in an Earth sign, or maybe even in a fixed sign like Leo or Scorpio for more fixity, that would help stabilize this kind of wild cusp, so to speak. And that would definitely. So there's a lot of things. That's why someone often will say, a sun sign, they'll say, I'm a Pisces, but I'm not at all like what you said Pisces are like. I'm not like that. I'm not dreamy. I'm not creative. I'm very practical. I'm organized, sort of thing. I'm more like a Virgo or something. So you have to fine tune with those. So the fire fuels an active fantasy life with water and fire coming together. Because it's early fire, it's raw. It's the most raw cusp of the zodiac because it's starting the zodiac. Fire fuels active fantasy life. Again, we all have an active fantasy life, even if we don't admit it to others. We all have a strong inner life. We all have all sorts of thoughts that if we mentioned every thought, we'd probably be all locked up or we'd be in trouble. So, this cusp is no exception. Lots of wild thoughts, lots of wild fantasies there, and the fire rules it. So the fire really fuels it, and it's important for people on this cusp to weigh alternatives to being overly direct. So the Pisces is so emotional, especially with the Pluto influence there, so strongly emotional, and then coming up on very early infantile Aries energy is so direct that it's good to weigh alternatives to not always be Pisces. Pisces often is too silent, but Aries is often too direct. So there's 2 energies here that are at odds on this cusp. So if you know anyone born on this cusp, please let me know in the comments what they're like in terms of as far as being quiet or direct. But it's good to weigh alternatives to being so direct with that early Aries energy. And the Pisces alone time, that comes off especially the 2nd and 3rd decades of Pisces needing a lot of alone time to recharge. All Pisces do, and most Pisces planets need that. But it comes up on Aries, which is independent. So again, there's more, there's something to collaborate with there. The alone time and also being independent. You don't want to be overly independent, but the Pisces can also be very needy. So you have to learn to collaborate with others in a healthy way. Learn to collaborate with others, whether it's through work or your community or your family and friends, and in a way that gets you out of your comfort zone, especially with the Pisces wanting to be alone. And very often people on this cusp One day they'll want to be alone, and the next day they're very extroverted, and they can be, it can be very much their energy level and their moods. And again, you would have to look at Mars and Neptune in their charts. If this person had a Mars planet that was also very restless and unstable, maybe like a Mars in Gemini, Mars in Sagittarius, or even a Mars in Pisces to go along with that, that would be pretty wild. And that would be really hard to commit or subscribe to anything that is routine. And they'd probably get bored of that pretty quickly. Okay, so we're 40 minutes in. So we want to develop realistic view. There's a little tiny word there. Develop a realistic view of yourself. So that's really important for people on this cusp. It's important for Pisces and Aries people. They might think like they're a superhero or a superheroine in terms of their imagination and dreams, and then that action. But, as you get older, you realize that some things actually are not possible. And if any Sagittarius people watch this, they'd be like, what? What did you just say? Did you say something was impossible? I'll show you. I think of Sag, out of all the 12 signs, I think of Sagittarius people more than anyone else. If you say something's not possible, they're like, wait a minute, I'll try. I'll try, kind of thing. I had a Sagittarius martial artist once say to me, he said, I'm not the strongest and I'm not the fastest martial artist. He was a wrestler. I'm not the fastest or strongest, but I'm definitely, if I'm going down, I'm also going to, that other guy is going to know who he fought. Like I'm going to do something to him or do some move that he will remember me. I'll show him something. So it's kind of like I'll show the impossible. I'll show that the impossible is possible to some extent. That's Sag. But yeah, it depends on the Mars sign there. And as far as the restlessness, realistic, find a middle ground. That kind of goes along with the alone and the independence and collaborate. It's hard for Pisces planets. So if someone is a sun in Pisces on this cusp, if they're a late Pisces, if they're Pisces with Aries traits, some Aries traits, they could find it hard to get out of that need for alone time, and they need to find a middle ground where they can find an activity or a club or something where they can be a little more social, maybe a little more practical and productive in society or the community. And the opposite of this cusp, which we'll be talking about in 6 months, is the Virgo Libra cusp, which we'll be talking about in late September. And that is Virgo and Libra, which is a little more grounded and a little more rational and a little more airy, which can think things through and maybe not be as fantastical. So that's the opposite. So let's talk a little bit about compatibility with the zodiac signs. So my latest video came out this morning. You could check that out. It's my Pisces 2 compatibility. And then I did the Pisces compatibility from first one from last week. So check out those 2 Pisces compatibility videos. And of course, I have other Pisces videos from the previous year as well, how to motivate Pisces. And so check those out too if you are a Pisces or you know someone who is, since we're ending your sign. And starting next week, I might in the transit, so I'll be mentioning Pisces here and there, but I won't be talking about Pisces per se. Pisces won't be the focus. So this is kind of your last evening here. We're talking about Pisces. So let's talk a little bit of mention the compatibility with the zodiac signs that I talked about in my videos. And I'm going to be doing more and more of these because I think these are really useful for people. And again, I'm talking about the sun signs. I'm going to get into more detailed compatibility in the future, where I might take 2 signs and do 4 or 5 or 6 minutes and talk about more dynamics between the 2, and then also other placements of those signs as well. So if I'm talking about Pisces and Pisces, then I might talk about a moon in Pisces and a sun in Pisces, or a moon in Pisces and another moon in Pisces, and kind of put those together, because the natal charts are very intricate when it comes to true compatibility between people. So let's talk about some signs with Pisces. So let's start, since we're talking about Aries here, Pisces cusp with Aries, and Aries starting on March 19th and the 20th. What is it like for a Pisces person to get along or vibe with an Aries? So I said in my video that Pisces is the last sign, Aries is the first sign. They're right next to each other. There can be a strong lack of understanding between the two signs because they're wildly different. And they are almost opposites in the sense that Pisces is the most sensitive, and Aries, because it's the first sign and doesn't always think things through, can be insensitive. And the Aries energy, if you know Aries people, the insensitivity of Aries, and I'll talk about more of this in a couple weeks. I'll go into more depth. The Aries energy is blunt and it can be insensitive. That doesn't mean you have to know where an Aries person is coming from when he or she is coming at you with that bluntness and possibly being insensitive, because Aries does not like to sugarcoat the truth. So a person on this cusp is going to have a little bit of that early raw Aries energy that doesn't sugarcoat the truth, and that can hurt the feelings of a Pisces person, because Pisces can be so sensitive. But it doesn't mean that the Aries person is mean. It doesn't mean it's coming from, it does not mean that it's coming from a mean place. Again, you have to clarify. Could Aries people be a little less direct and blunt sometimes? Yes, that's an Aries. That's an Aries lesson, and we'll talk about that. But basically, Pisces and Aries, not easily compatible because of the differences in temperament, the water and the fire. The water puts out the fire. Aries often feels that the melancholy moods of Pisces can be a little bit of a downer, and the Pisces can also feel that the enthusiasm of Aries is too much, is too hot, burns too much. So they can throw each other off that way. They can be good friends because they're both earnest in terms of how they want to be in a relationship. They could both be devoted and earnest to some extent. So a good friendship can be there. They could be good friends, especially like a late Pisces, like a Pisces 3 with a Pisces Aries cusp person, or a Pisces 3 with the other Aries decanates. Could be good friends. But whether that develops into something else, we don't know. So the next would be Taurus. So Pisces and Taurus have a natural sextile in the zodiac. So in astrology, it's the sextile that indicates a natural friendship. I equate sextile with friendship, and it's an easier friendship than with Aries. With Aries, it takes a lot of work. Pisces and Taurus planets go along well with each other. One reason I think is because if Taurus is positive and patient, that works really well for Pisces. Pisces sees a little protection and a solid place there to fall for their moods and their emotions. And Taurus can put up with Pisces. Taurus can hang in there. Taurus isn't going to lose their patience as quickly as Aries might. The stubbornness of Taurus can irritate Pisces, although, and that can create some problems. So it depends on if Taurus digs their heels in a positive way, then Pisces could see the loyalty. If they dig their heels in a negative way and they're obstinate and don't share their feelings, which all Taurus people need some help with expression. Taurus planets need help with expression, and that can throw Pisces off and wonder, are they ever coming back? And as far as the stubbornness, and that sort of thing. So next we have Gemini, Pisces and Gemini, and that's kind of hit or miss, I think. Pisces and Gemini planets. Pisces and Gemini are square each other in the zodiac, which indicates conflict and tension. So probably more than 50% of the time, there's going to be a clash because of the temperaments. Pisces can find Gemini glib, and Gemini can find Pisces a wet blanket and way too emotional. So they can be off there, but they can spur each other into action. They can both be sensitive and imaginative and open to a lot of things in life. So again, there could be a companionship or a friendship there. If they have similar interests, that could turn into something good, and they could have some fun. So that's hit or miss. So next is Cancer. Cancer and Pisces is a natural psychic empathic combination because you have the moon and Neptune. And Cancer people, if they're positive and their emotions are on an even keel, will effortlessly pick up the emotions of Pisces, and Pisces will pick up the antenna of the Cancer person, especially when they're feeling vulnerable and hurt. Cancer people can be tough, but it's usually because they're hiding the softness underneath, and they can be easily hurt, but they can be tough on the outside. Cancer is not a weak sign. So Pisces knows that. Pisces knows that sometimes they're trying to act tough. It's kind of like reminds me of the movie or the book, The Outsiders from S.E. Hinton, one of the best books ever, and also one of the best 80s movies. I highly recommend it. That's your homework assignment, is to watch The Outsiders, which has the whole Brat Pack pretty much. All the men in Outsiders are all huge stars. And Diane Lane is in that. But S.E. Hinton, what a wonderful writer and author. And but yeah, it's definitely hit or miss. It can be hit or miss with Cancer if they're both signs' moods are off. Otherwise, it would generally be pretty good. And then we have Leo, Cancer with Leo. Pisces with Leo. We'll get to Cancer with Leo later. Pisces with Leo, we have two actors, right? We have two actresses. This is a theatrical, dynamic duo and an emotional duo. Leos can be aloof and regal, and they can sit back, but they're emotional. Leos are very vulnerable in a lot of ways. Leos are, and Pisces will pick up on that more than any other sign. Pisces knows all the puff and pomp and circumstance of Leos being the boss and being strong, often hides an insecure and easily hurt interior. And that's because if you step on the cat's tail, you know what happens when you step on your cat's tail. So Pisces knows that. Pisces can be very sensitive to Leo, but they can also be turned off by Leo's haughtiness. And sometimes Leo's haughtiness is quiet and it's aloof. Sometimes it's loud and obnoxious. But when a Leo is warm and positive and sunny, there's probably no other better sign to be around. A positive sunny Leo person is wonderfully radiant, magnetic, and loving, and Pisces could bask in that. So that's possible. And then let's talk about Pisces and Virgo, the polarity, which I've been talking about for weeks. Pisces and Virgo are opposite signs in the zodiac, and that can also be hit or miss like Gemini. I hate to keep saying hit or miss, but a lot of these matchups are. The Pisces and Virgo are both devoted and caring in their own ways, and also quiet and helpful. The thing is, Virgos are not emotional enough, at least in my opinion. Does it mean that Virgos don't care? No. Does it mean that a Virgo isn't loving towards that Pisces person? No. But Virgo is going to tend to not be emotional. So if Virgos could be a little more emotional, Pisces would appreciate that. And if Pisces could be a little less emotional and a little more grounded and stable, Virgo would appreciate that. So it depends on where the people are coming from. This would depend on, I would need to know the Pisces and Virgo people's ages. If I was talking about 25-year-olds as opposed to 55 or 60-year-olds, it'd be totally different stories. And I would look to Mercury and Neptune in their charts for the communication, because they are mutable signs and they're both shy. So they really need good, clear communication for their sensitivity and they can both be offended easily as well. So that's not easy. So we talked about Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And then in my video this morning, I talked about the remaining 6 signs. So I'm going to save that for the beginning of next week. So we'll talk about Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, and then Pisces. So we'll finish up very, very briefly next week. We'll talk about Pisces a little bit as we're coming off the cusp, and then we're going to start Aries. So now let's get to the last part. We're in, oh wow, we're in almost an hour. Okay. Let's talk about the celebrities. So these celebrities, again, I'm not picking Pisces celebrities from just, from February 20th to March 20th. These are celebrities that are born on this cusp period. So these are true cusp celebrities. So you can look them up. You can look up their birthday and year. And then if you want to look up their chart, you can look up and see, you can see if they're a 29 Pisces, a 0 Aries, a 1 Aries, a 2 Aries, a 3 Aries, a 4 Aries, a 5 Aries, that sort of thing. And then you'll know their cusp. Even a 28 Pisces person, 28 degrees, is still considered pretty much a cusp. So this is very interesting. We have Bach, and I have a very musical family. There's so many musicians in my family on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side. And I'm not a big classical music person, although I truly appreciate it. And I do listen to it from time to time, but I'm not necessarily into classical music. But Bach's music is fascinating because of the water and the fire combo. I think you can hear it. I don't know his other placements, but you can absolutely hear the Pisces in Bach's music. There's no doubt to me. There's a sort of an elegance. All composers have elegance to their concertos and their music, but Bach has elegance. George Benson, saw him in concert in 1986, and wonderful. One of the best. I think he's in my book, he's the best jazz guitarist ever. And he was influenced by a legendary guitarist named Wes Montgomery from the jazz world. So for those of you that are into jazz and older popular music, you'll know the name Wes Montgomery, who had a very unique picking kind of guitar style. And George Benson, beautiful, beautiful music. He was also produced by Quincy Jones, who is a Pisces. George is an early Aries, but they're both born on they're both born within a week of each other. And George's music is just beautiful from the 70s and 80s. And he even has some stuff from the 60s that's very sparse, kind of sparse jazz. Beautiful, beautiful Pisces, Aries music. And Steve McQueen, who's early Aries, but he's on the cusp. What's that movie? Is it Bullet? The movie, I think I watched that with my dad when I was young. That movie where it has that car scene, talk about, that's pure raw Aries. It has one of the best chase scenes in any movie. And Steve McQueen was very similar to James Dean, was very into cars and doing things fast. And his face was kind of round, but he had kind of like a soft, almost soft Pisces kind of look, but then clearly had an Aries brow and horns here, sort of thing. So Andrew Lloyd Webber and Stephen Sondheim, 2 epic musical theater songwriters, some of the most famous in the world. Both of them born on March 22nd, but different years. And I think they were somewhat competitive. So they're both early Aries people. And I think you can hear that in their theatrical music. You can hear the rush of early Aries energy, no doubt, in their musicals, in their numbers. Andrew Lloyd Webber and Stephen Sondheim, both the same and both competitive. This is a competitive cusp because it's got a little Aries there. Ricky Wilson from the B-52s. He's a guitarist. He's one of the co-founders of the quirky new wave band B-52s. And he actually says in one of his songs, "Hi, I'm Ricky. I'm a Pisces." And he's really cool. Eddie Money is another musician, songwriter. The late Eddie Money died a few years ago. He was kind of in the vein of Bruce Springsteen, kind of much, and Bryan Adams, guitarist, songwriter, kind of a bluesy kind of pop singing. Early Aries, though, very emotional music. Definitely hear the Pisces, but I can hear the fire in him too. Music's kind of impulsive and it's very raw. Roger Hodgson, he's the lead singer from a 70s group called Supertramp. They had a song called "Take the Long Way Home," which is very whimsical. And Pisces Aries cusp. Rick Ocasek, the late lead singer from the new wave pop group from Boston, Massachusetts, the Cars. One of the best, in my opinion, one of the best songwriters to come out of the 70s or 80s. And he was a big reason why the Cars made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A new wave pop band made it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Cars are amazing. And their music has a little darkness to it. It's definitely dark and emotional and fantasy driven with the Pisces. But he was the main songwriter, and it has the Aries force too. The Aries beats. A lot of the Cars songs have really good beats. Shaka Khan, "I Feel For You," Pisces Aries. I mean, singing Prince's song. Do we think Shaka Khan has feeling in her music? Maybe a little bit. She's not detached and cold. No, I feel for you. She means it. Not the Pisces, but she's got the Aries spunk. She feels for you. Awesome. And also, I'm Every Woman. Talk about spunk. Awesome singer. Holger Zuke, a European singer from the experimental group Can. I actually heard this song today on satellite radio, and it's odd that I happened to look it up, and then I happened to find out he's born on this cusp. Really weird stuff. Again, remember, on this cusp, even if someone's in Aries, so even if you know someone that's, let's say, March 21st, and you say, "Oh, my friend's in Aries," they are definitely not Pisces. My friend is totally in Aries. He or she is going to have a little weirdness and a little whimsical quality somewhere in their life because there's a touch of Pisces there. It's going to be there somewhere. They may not show it to you, but it's there. And that's absolutely this guy, this music, that's weird stuff. Nick Lowe, singer, he had a song called "Cruel to Be Kind," which is interesting. He wanted to be kind, but you got to be cruel. Kind of maybe Aries Pisces. Nena, German new wave pop songstress, and she had a lot of hits in Europe, and then she crossed over to the U.S. Her music has really good, the German music from 70s and 80s is, I think like the music, the electronic music, techno, as we know, like technical music, electronic techno, I think came much from Berlin, Germany. And I think the Aries part of her was very instrumental in bringing that music to the United States. If you listen to her music, I hear it's very Germanic and it's very Martian. It's very Aries. Now, Aretha Franklin, she's not technically, I really think she's not technically on this cusp. She's born March 25th. So I think out of everyone here, she's the most true Aries in her music when you listen to her songs, and especially the song "Respect," right? So I wanted to mention her. I don't know if she had any Pisces in her chart, but she has a lot of feeling in her music. But she's definitely more of the Aries straightforward fieriness and the intuitive. You can hear her intuitive qualities when she's singing, her intuition. Chester Bennington is a late modern singer. He died a few years ago. He was the lead singer of a group called Linkin Park, and they're kind of a modern kind of rap, new heavy metal kind of group. They had some good songs, and I'm a little old for their demographic. When they came out, I was a little older, but their music is really really good, and their songs. Chester has this kind of tortured. Poor Chester. His the whole thing surrounding his death is whole dark, but that's a whole nother podcast. Um, his music is really, his singing is really emotional. It's very raw. It's very dark. It's very kind of tortured. And you can hear the Pisces and I can hear the Aries. I think he's technically an Aries, but you can really hear that combination of the sadness and the melancholy in his music, but also the vulnerability of being this raw, impulsive person that's just going purely on his own ideas, his own peculiar way of looking at life, and his own impulses. And it's all through Linkin Park's music, and it's really phenomenal. It's he's really underrated. Not the best singer in the world technically, but what he brought, the energy he brought to that group, it was pretty amazing. And the world lost a good singer with the late Chester Bennington, and a lot of these people have passed, obviously. Another person from history is Harry Houdini, and obviously everyone knows who he is, the escapist and magician, and he was very versatile. That's another thing, being born on this cusp. All cusp people tend to be a little more versatile than someone that is in a true period of the sign. So a Pisces Aries person born on this cusp is going to tend to be a little more versatile than an April 1st Aries. So when we get to Aries and we talk about the week of April 1st, which is an Aries right in the middle of Aries, depending on the other chart indicators, there's not as much versatility. It's more true to the sign. But this is combining the two. It's almost like people can you could draw on one sign or another depending on what environment you're in. And I think Harry Houdini did that. Uh, Obviously very Piscean with the escapist, but also all the physicality, being physical and assertive and doing all the daring stuff. That's totally Aries. That's totally Aries to me. So Harry Houdini, and there were more, but I kind of ran out of space there, and I don't want to bore you too much. But if any of you see this podcast live stream in the future, let me know. This is my 12th, so there's been a dozen now live streams, and every week I have my guideline, but I'm open to talking about other things. If anyone has a question, ultimately I want to get more people in here so we can start to do mini readings or micro readings, and we can start to do more astrological specific stuff that you want to hear about, that could pertain to the sign that we're in or not, and we can go off the beaten path a little bit each week. But let me know if you see this in the future, this replay. Please give it a comment and let me know what you like about the podcast live stream. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Is it too long? For some people, it might be too short. Sometimes there's podcasts and live streams that are 2 or 3 hours. I don't know how people talk that long. That's amazing. But yeah, just let me know. And let me know what you might want to see in future live streams. Do you want to see more details about the celebrities? Do you want me to profile more celebrities and talk more about just their chart and how it relates to the sign we're in, like I do in my videos? Before we go, I'm just going to show you the transits here. So these are the transits for the wheel here, and you have the Aries right here. Here's the Aries ingress. This is for March 19th, and then you have. Oh, thank you, Karen. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Nice to see you. Wonderful. Glad you could make it. I'm changing my times up. I think you ladies are realizing that. I know I did 8 and then I was doing 7:30. Now I'm doing 7. So I'm doing different times. I'm trying to get different people, but we'll change it up. And then of course there's still all of this Pisces You know, all this Pisces in the sky here. All that Pisces. Now we have Venus has entered Pisces, which is beautiful. So that's really good for love life. That's a really nice, soft, beautiful placement. Mars in Aquarius. Mars in Aquarius, that's going to enter Pisces soon. And then, you know, we have the moon in Leo tonight up here. Baby born tonight would have the moon in Leo. And then, of course, the Taurus planets, Scorpio rising right here. So that is the chart for coming up. So any babies born this week, they will have those indicators. But we're getting away from all that Aquarius. You can feel it in the air. Like the Pluto in Aquarius is going to be here forever. But all those other personal planets that I talked about the last 2 weeks, you know, now we only have Mars, and the Mars Aquarius is a Aquarius Pisces cusp. So you can feel it. It feels different. Things don't feel as intellectual. They don't feel as detached. Look at the beauty and the rawness of Earth, the smells and the creatures. Everything is more immediate now. It's less detached. It's like we're coming off of winter as spectators, and now we're going to get into Aries, which is all about, this is the main thing I want to leave you with tonight, is that the Aries, more than any other sign, is all about participating in life. The spirit and enthusiasm of Aries is about, no matter how shy you are, no matter how scared you are, no matter how hesitant you are, you have to participate in life to the extent that you can. And I mean that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. That's what Aries, we're going to talk about in the coming weeks. That's what Aries is going to teach all the other signs. I always say every sign has gifts. And as we go from the shy, retiring sign and the wisdom sign of Pisces into the sign of Aries and getting out there and getting into life. That's such a beautiful thing. Look at the squirrels. We already have ladybugs, spiders, and so many ladybugs, spiders, and ants this week in my kitchen. So they're all a little early on the clock. It's not even spring, but that's the life, right? That's the beauty of it, is and the squirrels and the birds and everything. So it's all about getting into life. So that's what the thought I want to leave you with. So this is Astroscoop live stream number 12. Thank you so much. Next week will be 13. And so coming up, I will have probably, my next video will probably be Pisces, Aries cusp, and I'll talk about some of these things, and then we'll move right into Aries. I hope all of you have a great weekend and happy spring. Next time I talk to you, it will be spring. Until the next one, stay safe and be yourself. Have a great night.